What's going on, everybody? I'm Matt Harmon. Welcome to the Yahoo Fantasy Forecast presented by Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL. And it is a hell of a day to talk ball. And join me to do just that is Nate Tice. Nate, we are so close. We're about 24 hours as we're recording this right now, 24 hours away, just a little over 24 hours away from a real football game. We're just so close to never caring about preseason depth charts or taking victory laps based off training camp usage. We're so close, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm tired of over analyzing one-on-one clips while the reporters are sectioned off into a 2x2 area of the practice field, and we have to take that analysis as gospel because we have nothing else to go off of. But I am very excited to have real games and real things to react to and predict and analyze. I'm so excited for football and excited, of course, to be doing it with you several times a week, but especially on this show.
No doubt. This, for new folks here, this is our fantasy film room show. For these shows each and every week here, we will dive into some trending fantasy topics off the top. We're going to look at it from a film-based angle. If you're not familiar with Nate Tice's content, he's in that film room, baby. He is got the eyes on the tape. I do as well. So then we're going to talk again. We're going to try to do some big picture fantasy topics, things that the fantasy dorks who are not watching the games, Nate, they're just looking at the stat sheets. They're going to miss these details. That's what we're talking about off the top. Then we get into what Nate is nerding out about each and every week as his Nate, you getting to know you over the last couple of years. You've got some fun little hang-ups and intricacies, you know. You remember I've seen Good Will Hunting, by the way. It's one of the movies I've seen. The weird little idiosyncrasies that you've got some of those as you do your weekly prep. That's what you're going to talk to us here about in the Nate's Nerding Out segment. And then finally, we finish each and every edition of this show previewing Thursday Night Football. But first, today, before we get into any of that, we do have some news to hit on here. This morning, we found out from multiple reports. I know some sad news, some downer news. The Jets believe that guard OG Vera-Tucker will miss the entire 2025 season with a triceps injury that is going to require surgery. Vera-Tucker is a really good player. He has had issues staying on the field. He has even had issues with his triceps previously. This is not his first tricep injury in the NFL. Nate, my first reaction when I saw this morning was, the whole thesis of the Jets offense being passable this year was we're going to run the hell out of the ball and we're going to give Justin Fields, come hell or high water, whatever he brings a passer, we're going to give him the best pass protection of his career. Week 1 has not even begun and we're already digging into both of those theses we just rolled out.
Yeah, it was one of those ones that we've been, I don't know, I'd say even on Football 301, just kind of interested in the Jets. And we've talked about it, like kind of the 2022 Falcons, I believe it was, that we were comparing them to, like just kind of a circus sideshow freak that we'll check out every once in a while, that we'll see how that kind of offense is going. And because I just thought that this offense, because they were Aaron Glenn's not going to go throw the ball 100 times. Like I think Aaron Glenn, a defensive coach, an aggressive defensive coach, it's all about toughness and personality and everything. I mean that complimentary is that I think he was like, yeah, Fields is going to run it. And then we got the best position on this offense is the running back room, whether it was Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, or even Isaiah Davis is a fine back as well, that I could just see. I would go full blown triple option team, but I just figured that this would be a run first team and a run second team. And then there'll be some explosive passes and we'll see from there. And why the excitement came wasn't just because of that backfield. It was, wow, this is a really young and really talented offensive line that they've invested in. And part of that was, OG Vera-Tucker is finally healthy for once. And then he tears his tricep again. And I actually was talking to our friend, Charles McDonald, our colleague, and he was like, man, this just keeps happening to him. And he's like, every year, best shape of his life, gets hurt. This was Charles saying it. And it's like, he probably overtrains and that's why he gets muscle tears, because that means, your muscles are too strong for your tendons. Yeah. So he probably gets back and he's a competitive dude and gets overtrains and then it just happens again. It stinks. That cycle that happens. But I mean, I really like Fashanu, their left tackle. And then I'm pretty high on Bimbao, who had looked good at first in preseason, kind of tempered down, looked more like a rookie the rest of preseason, but I'm still high on him overall. I really like Mason Taylor, and he showed to be a better blocker, their tight end. So I just thought this run game was going to be juicy and just one of those ones where it's like, yeah, they're not going to be a good offense, but at least they have an identity. But part of that was Vera-Tucker playing at right guard, and now you're into the depth, and the depth of the offensive line is not great.
No, it's not. And Elijah Vera-Tucker was going to be the right guard right next to Armand Membu, the rookie. I think that sneaky stinks too. You know, it's so nice when you have that young, inexperienced player right next to just somebody that you can, hey, like learn the ropes from this guy. You guys are going to communicate really well. And these guys have played, like, offensive line is such a communication-based position. It's not discussed enough, but it's such a communication, like chemistry-based position. Mm-hmm. You're now going to have to suddenly, right before the dawn of the season, start working in a new starting right guard. Just really stinks. I think it's funny that we're talking about this Jets team here right at the onset of Fantasy Film Room, because, like, Nate, this is why I wanted to have, like, I pitched the Nate's Nerding Out segment last year, because I know how this works on, like, the traditional NFL shows. I don't think the Jets are going to be very good this year. I actually, when Joey Galino reached out, the NFL editor Joey Galino reached out to us over the weekend about, like, hey, give me all your season predictions. Who's going to have the number 1 overall pick? I went Saints. I went chalky. But there was a part of me that thought, like, I could see scenarios where the Jets have the first overall pick if this really goes poorly on offense. I think the defense is probably too good, so I backed off on it. I'm starting to feel a little bit like maybe I should have said the Jets. I'm looking at this depth chart beyond the Vera-Tucker thing. Look at all, like, these pass catchers are just not good beyond Garrett Wilson, and it's the Justin Fields of it all. But anyways, my point here is that I know how this goes, like on the big shows, the NFL shows, you're going to get to a point where you're not talking about the Jets. But you can come on this show because fantasy players are still going to care about the Jets. And if you're, like, nerding out about, oh, this Jets offense is an interesting little circus freak of a unit, and they're doing some cool stuff that we might want to care about in 2026. Like, fantasy players will be open to that. Now, again, I'm just looking at this and a little nervous they might not even be interesting enough to make the Nate's Nerding Out segment.
No, they didn't. They got canceled off of that instantly. It's a TBD on the Jets for a while, which after the Rodgers experience we needed anyways. But now I was kind of like, hey, this is interesting. They're kind of eating their vegetables. Let's see how this goes. And now it's just like, oh, you guys can never stay healthy over there. And even just the team makeup, like, you don't want Fields throwing the ball more than 20 times. And then we've talked about their pass catchers, and Garrett Wilson, very talented. Maybe the usage with Fields isn't perfect, like not exactly what I was hoping between quarterback and receiver. The secondary options are more like Nate's Nerding Out receivers as opposed to actually tangible fantasy relevant receivers. So that's the thing, is their team makeup. This defense fell off a cliff last year once they fired Robert Saleh. I don't think they're a bottom 5 defense. I don't think they're a top 5 defense that they maybe have been the last couple of years, more somewhere in the middle, maybe 10th, 12th, somewhere in that range, 14th. They're playing a lot of man coverage. Why I'm saying all that is that they might get outclassed on defense sometimes too, as they challenge teams man-to-man coverage like Aaron Glenn likes to do too. So it's one of these teams where it's like, it's not all adding up to a lot of good. I don't think Jets fans are expecting that, but I at least thought the run game would be a little bit fun.
Yeah, I don't mean to be so doom and gloom, but it sucks when you lose, like, a really good player here right before the game starts. Yeah. So we'll definitely track this Jets offense, and hopefully we can talk about them a little bit in Nate's Nerding Out in a future week. But for now, we're going to transition into the meat of the show. And with that, welcome to the Fantasy Film Room presented by Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL. All right, so for today's Film Room episode, because week 1 has not happened, we don't have any film, and I'm not going to sit here and break down preseason film with Nate after my little diatribe off the top here. I thought it would be good to dive into 4 offenses that we're really excited to turn on that week 1 film once we get to it, because we have some questions. We're looking for some clues that might give us some actionable information over the course of the season. So each of us has 2 offenses to go through. Nate, we're going to go to the NFC North for both of our first 2 offenses. I will let you kick it off here.
Yeah, I'm going to start. Actually, we're going to be covering the same game here. Spoilers.
Same game too.
But
yes, that's right.
Yes, I know. I know. I actually kind of almost shied away from it because of that reason. But the Minnesota Vikings, which I think are one of the most interesting teams in a very interesting division and a very interesting conference, the NFC. The Vikings, of course, I would start with the headliners, swapping out Sam Darnold for JJ McCarthy. I'll remind everyone they drafted in the first round just a year ago, in the top half of the first round, I might add. Traded for Jordan Mason, which is a small little addition I did like on this team because I feel like they've needed a hammerhead that can actually see the hole, as opposed to Alexander Madison or late stage Dalvin Cook. Aaron Jones brought a little explosive element to this offense that I really liked last year, but it just kind of felt like they were losing that guy that can get on base, just get the ugly yards. And last year, this whole Vikings offense fell apart because of the offensive line, something you and I have touched on for months now. And now it's going to be fun to get a new data sample with this new offensive line with 3 new starters on the interior. And not just, this isn't the crap to average bump that I like to give sometimes. I think a lot of these guys are, at the very least, can be above average right away, including the rookie Donovan Jackson, especially in the run game. So I am bullish on this run game. I think more as I've marinated on it. And I joked about this yesterday on our prediction show on Football 301. This was my initial feelings, and then I got away from it. And then now I'm back to being pretty high on what this offense can be. There's going to be explosive passes to have in this offense. Justin Jefferson's going to eat. He always has high usage. KOC knows where his bread is buttered. The whole offense revolves around Justin Jefferson. He's going to figure out ways to get him the ball. JJ McCarthy is going to do enough. He's got an explosive arm. He's going to make a couple mistakes, but he can run a little bit too. Like, I think that's an underrated thing with McCarthy. He's a good athlete. And I think he's going to be able to be a fine quarterback in this offense, but I need some data points. So that's where I'm excited to see it go against a Bears defense that could be a top 10 defense as well. Got some familiarity as far as personnel there too. So new D coordinator and everything, but I'm just very, very excited to just see finally what McCarthy looks like, what I think this Vikings offense, they'll run the ball a little bit better and more. And just see what that all looks like, because I am pretty optimistic of what it'll look like.
It is really funny because obviously I'm talking about the Bears as my first offense, and we'll get into them here in a second. But as much as I keep thinking about this in this game, I am very, very excited to see this Bears offense and Ben Johnson, the whole deal. And then there's part of me like, hey, dummy, that might not even be the biggest story in this game, because as Nate's pointing out here, the Vikings offense is a unit that's not in as big of a transition necessarily, because it's the same play caller. As a matter of fact, of the 4 teams we are talking about today, the Vikings are the only one that are bringing back their play caller, but they're changing over something else pretty important, which is the damn quarterback, JJ McCarthy. And I think, look, obviously we want to see what JJ McCarthy does. And you and I talked about this yesterday. I also talked about this on the show with Ray Garvin yesterday. I don't know if it's just, I've said everything I've had to say about every topic possible in the NFL at this point, and I'm just ready for week 1 to happen. But I'm sort of starting to think, did we not spend enough time all offseason talking about what if JJ McCarthy is actually just good? What if he's better than Sam Darnold? We spent all this time, and I'm sure you and I had these conversations. If I could remember them, that would be nice, but who knows? I'm sure we've had conversations where it's like, well, yeah, but we'll see. We have to see who JJ McCarthy is. Well, what if we see it and he's really freaking good? Obviously, that's something I'm interested in learning. But also, Nate, you keep bringing up the run game, which I think is super instructive here. The Vikings last year were second in neutral pass rate, behind only the Bengals. That's something that I'm curious to see if this, just from a volume perspective, is a lot lower in the passing game. And I don't think that's going to impact Justin Jefferson, but when Jordan Addison gets back, that would be a big fantasy discussion. TJ Hawkinson is a guy that was drafted as a top 5 to 6 tight end. Is there room for both Jones and Jordan Mason to eat in this run game? Potentially. So yeah, I think that running game, as much as we're all going to be eyes on JJ McCarthy, the running game usage and deployment is something I'm definitely going to be focused on as well.
Yeah, I really think Jordan Mason's going to just be the classic vulture, the Montgomery of this offense. I know that's the modern comparison that everyone has to use now. any receiver that gets touches in the backfield is Deebo Samuel. Any split backfield between is Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Those are the modern references. Any two-way players are Travis Hunter. So I do think this offense that relies, it's going to be explosive. KOC just he hunts explosive plays. It's really cool to watch how aggressive he is. And that's, again, with Sam Darnold, I looked it up before the show. Sam Darnold was about middle of the pack in all the underlying stats, EP per play, EP per dropback, success rate type of things. So that's the goal. JJ McCarthy just has to be 16th, I think. And this offense can just churn. But I do think that the tilt, or at least the preference, or what they're going to lean into, is going to be a little bit more in this run game that, again, you're boosting the entire interior, which is what depleted this entire team last year. And now, boosting the interior, and then you're boosting the bulk or the bulkiness of the running back too. I just think this offense that was throwing just haymaker after haymaker after haymaker, with sometimes Darnold taking haymakers and the offense taking haymakers back. They just a little bit more boring jabs. And I think that's just gonna a little bit. It's good. That's good for a second-year quarterback that has as many snaps in the NFL, regular season NFL, as me and you do combined. So that's that is something that I think is just nice. It's just I know I ended up having Vikings as a playoff team, which I've just been hemming and hawing back 100 times since we've recorded that episode with them and the Lions. But I do think that they've lifted the floor of this offense, and I think McCarthy is going to be at least adequate to be a decent offense. Again, I have to see it week 1, though. That's the first part.
Totally. Again, yeah, this is one I'm really going to be looking forward to, like, watching back on film and seeing, like, were there things that McCarthy missed, or, again, not trying to overreact to a one-game sample, but really just from a structure perspective, because that's going to inform like rest of season rankings a lot. Is like what we see in this offense from a volume perspective. Even like with Jordan Mason, you mentioned him as like a David Montgomery type. I'm curious if he could. I mean, actually, if he's David Montgomery, that's great. But like, yeah, is he David Montgomery? Is he more of just a goal line vulture? Because I remember, I think it was after week 1 in the Nate's Nerding Out segment, you brought up the Vikings run game and how cool it was with Aaron Jones. I was like, I agree. My only pushback is, how long is that going to last? Because Aaron Jones is a guy who wears down. You know, is there a chance where Mason leads this team in touches? I do think that's potentially on the table. So all very interesting clues to look for here in week 1. I'll go to the other team in this matchup, the Chicago Bears, the offense that I can't wait to get some clues on. I joked about preseason depth charts and all that stuff. I think there actually might be something instructive, Nate, to the fact that every time the Bears put out a preseason depth chart, it's in 12 personnel. It's always 2 tight ends are starting, and Olamide Zaccheaus is behind DJ Moore. I know Zaccheaus got a lot of intrigue after that first preseason game because there'd been some like summer buzz on him, and obviously he scored the long touchdown. Ben Johnson, slot receiver. Don't know if you know that. That's something we got to chase here, but I think
exactly on my Russell Brown.
Totally, just copy paste. That role is going to be here. I really think there's going to be something to learn about just how often are both of these tight ends on the field. What is the passing game split between Rome Odunze and DJ Moore and all of these other players? And obviously, just beyond the fact, like, what does Caleb Williams look like in this offense? This is one, like, the split of touches. I've been pretty just flat on it. Like, I think Odunze and Moore will be pretty close, and then I think that these 2 tight ends will be kind of close from a targets perspective. But shoot, after week 1, I might be willing to completely throw that in the trash and maybe, again, like overreact if somebody is like clearly a featured piece above the others in week 1.
And how the hell do the running backs sort out? Like that's the Bears are, I mean, every NFC North team's so fun to watch this year because, Roschon Johnson's been hurt. Me and you, and I think Ben Johnson, not the biggest DeAndre Swift fans. Maybe I'm speaking for you, but I'll admit mine. And then they got an interesting 7th round rookie that it seems like they like. And it's just that. Do you see Luther Burden change his number again? By the way,
like 3 times. I like 87. I know he was like, it sucks, but
I thought that was a good number for him.
10 is fine. We're old, dude, at this point. We're washed up, and like back in our day, receivers wore numbers in the 80s. Muhsin Muhammad with the Bears rocking 87. Luther Burden, what a legacy.
Moose references. No, this Bears team that you mentioned is just a lot of mouths to feed. How do those guys sort out is just interesting. I do think it's going to be like you just stated 10 times. I just think that they drafted Colson Loveland for a reason. They had a lot of choices there to go in a lot of different directions, and it seemed like they were running to the podium to draft Colson Loveland. And tight ends, though, Brock Bowers' exception, is that it takes the time to impact the game. Colson Loveland's very young, but the early returns are positive. Cole Kmet is playable. I in real football terms, I'm a little lower on him than I think the public consensus, but I do think he's playable. And I think that's what's interesting is that I just want to see how they use Loveland. Is Loveland split out? Is Loveland going to give ISO ball touches? We've talked to him a million times. Like, is Nduze going to get some power slot reps, or is that just me fantasizing about it? Is he like, we think he can both be an X, but then is DJ Moore going to catch screens and going to be a vertical guy, or is Nduze going to catch all the screens? Because there's going to be a lot of screens in this offense too. So I'm with you. This would have been one of my answers if you didn't have it too, because I think the Bears are one of the most interesting teams. I'm very optimistic about the Ben Johnson, Caleb Johnson pairing. Caleb Williams Ben Johnson pairing. But I think any week it could look bad, and I think any week it could look good. So Ben Johnson too has had success, and I'll look up more stats on this for our previous show on Football 301. But Ben Johnson, at least against Brian Flores, has had a lot of success. He gave a lot of options, a lot of stuff to the offensive line and the quarterback, a lot of good screens, a lot of good checks, a lot of good kind of weapons with cadence against Brian Flores, and it's at home. So I do think that that's a little kind of like ace in the hole that this Bears offense might have if we're just handicapping this game. But man, there's just so many answers, so many things. How does the line look? How does, like, you know, it's supposed to be remade? How does everything sort out? So I'm with you. I think this is just an interesting unit to keep an eye on throughout this entire season.
Yeah, and it is fascinating how much like familiarity there is too, because Ben Johnson comes in the division, like, so he knows what to expect from Brian Flores. Brian Flores probably thinks he at least knows what to expect from Ben Johnson. I mean, yeah, I remember talking to Roma Dunze this summer and him saying like, yeah, that Vikings defense was really, really hard to prepare for. He's like, even if we had some success against them, especially just because that team struggled so much with zone coverage and they throw so many like funky zone coverage looks at you. That's something definitely won't get this on the broadcast angle, but watching it back on Tuesday, this is a Monday night game, watching this back on Tuesday, you might be able to say like, oh yeah, I actually think even if the production wasn't there, cause that's another part, like Brian Flores defense, Minnesota Vikings is a good unit. Okay. Like this Bears offense might take a minute to get there, but at least watching it back on film, like I know the production wasn't there in week one, but hey, the route concepts made sense together. This wasn't like Rome running 1,000, vertical corner routes from like the flanker position or whatever, and guys like operating in the same area. The spacing made some sense. So like that might definitely be one of those where we got to watch it back to see what happens. But just last point on this, Nate, and I'll throw it to you before we go to break here. It is fascinating that we're talking about a lot of like with the passing games of these two teams. These are two teams that could have really good defenses, and they might be more, especially we definitely seem like we're going that way with the Vikings, but even the Bears too, even though we have no idea who the hell the running back is, these might be two like more conservative offenses that try to lean into their defenses here. And that could lead to good NFL success, maybe some slight fantasy disappointments in the passing game.
It's in different ways. It's going to look like, I think this Bears, like maybe those early, Lions teams, or maybe even just give you familiarity. Sean Payton's Broncos, maybe not, last year, or the year before that, where it's going to be run first. Like that is the design of this offense. And so, like you say, like there's might be that lower usage, lower amount of pass attempts, but that's overall team success. But that's the thing too, is you're down the road. That's going to build up to something. That's what you hope anyways, is that, oh yeah, now in week 12 on the road, we're comfortable dropping our guy back over and over and over, dropping back our offensive line, or both offenses have reworked offensive lines. I was on a Bears podcast recently and they asked like, what am I paying attention to? Like, what's one thing after like 8 weeks that you're going to look at first for the Bears? Like a number, or is it like a concept, a stat? And I said sack rate. And that's some part of Caleb Williams, but also that to me is, like you say, is how are the concepts looking? Is the blocking going the right direction? Are running backs picking up the right guys? Is the offensive line holding up? Are receivers winning one-on-one? And like you said, the concept details. So like that, if there's one little thing I'm keeping an eye on this game and throughout the rest of the season, is like, does Caleb Williams just take 5 sacks against Flores, or does he have a plan that he's comfortable with? And I think that'll be indicative of a lot throughout the season.
No question. That game is going to be super fun to tune into on Monday night and rewatch later in the week. We are going to take our first break. When we come back, we go to the AFC South to talk about 2 more offenses we can't wait to watch back in week 1 right after this. All right, we are back. Nate Tice and I are continuing to run through offenses we can't wait to dive into the film in week 1 after the games are officially over and learn some real process-based things. We've got 2 AFC South teams here to talk about, Nate. I swear we didn't plan to go same division on this one, but I'll throw it to you for your second offense you can't wait to watch.
Yeah, and actually I thought you were going to have this one filled in. So this was pretty nice, because I am very curious about this offense, not just this week, throughout the whole year. That's the Jacksonville Jaguars. New play caller, Liam Cohen / head coach, a very young staff, I'm going to add as well. Drafted Travis Hunter. Got Brian Thomas Jr., signed Diami Brown. I'm I think you and I have talked about this offense a little bit. And both of us are just like coming to the same conclusion. Very excited and very interested, but man, I'm scared about that offensive line. And I just think that against a Panthers defense that, was dead last in a lot of stats last year. They did add a lot of pieces, but I don't think they're going to improve that much. Maybe a nice way to enter the season, feeling good, and which I think actually is going to be a sneaky fun game with these two offenses and what the defenses might be. But really, that's what I want to see. Can the Jags offensive line look sound? They were very unsound the last couple of years. Can this Jags offensive line just look competent? Because that will lead to a lot of long-term success. The usage of Travis Hunter is gigantic. I know you're very interested in that. Seeing him in the slot, see how they design plays for him. And I just want to see his usage. I think that's a fascinating subplot throughout the entire season as well. How the running back room shakes out. I'm high on Bashal Tutin. I think he has the most juice in that backfield and also just competency. Because Travis Etienne has never been good in protections. It sounded like they were shopping Tank Bigsby a bunch. Like just how that backfield shakes out, because there could be something there in usage wise. How Trevor Lawrence looks, obviously. I'm high on Brenton Strange, the tight end, and I do think he's a player that, from prospect to where he is right now, has really improved overall. And it seems like Trevor Lawrence has some faith in him as well. So, and of course, BTJ. It's a I wouldn't say a soft landing, but it's a fairly soft landing for a reworked offense with an iffy offensive line, and maybe just kind of get some good feelings about this Jags team. And I just, I want to be a part of those good feelings when I watch this game.
Yeah. We're reworking our preview show kind of outline here on the Yahoo Fantasy Forecast, which will be tomorrow with Justin Boone. We'll have the first episode of that. Part of that is that I'm going to bring 3 games to the table that are like not headliners, but might really be interesting, kind of like these potentially beautifully bad shootout type games. This game would be right up on on that list, but I think that the Jaguars are too intriguing to the point that Boone might have them in the first segment that you guys will hear tomorrow. I have a feeling he'll have a Jaguars related thing there, because there's so much to learn about this team. Right? I mean, you mentioned like the Travis Hunter role alone. I know I was joking about this. I don't know if Josh Norris, who I was tweeting with about this today, was joking, but did you see there's a commercial now with like Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter, and they're like dancing together and all that? And
no,
Josh was like zero cornerback snaps in this in this commercial, and I was like, yep, no rides, no dances for BTJ, no rides in the golf cart. So stock down for BTJ, stock up for Travis Hunter. I was joking. I think Josh was joking, but that's where the the Travis Hunter intrigue is. Like, we're trying to get clues from a damn commercial, a sponsored campaign. It's like, well, obviously they drafted him second overall to be a security blanket, a dance partner for Trevor Lawrence. We're reading into damn commercials trying to get clues about the Travis Hunter usage. So yeah, this is a team that, like, of course I can't wait to watch it in week 1, Nate.
I know that's the thing with you too, with the Travis Hunter. It's like, even as a prospect, I remember after you charted him, and I was like, even before I talked to you, I was like, I know where this is gonna go, because it was just like full steam ahead, full-time receiver. What are we kidding? Because this guy's a freak. I know, and I was like, yeah, I know, I get it. He's raw, but I get it.
Corners, please. We get those. You can find those anywhere.
I know. And it seems like the Jags coaches did the exact same thing. They're like, we know we got him in that corner, but hey, have you seen him play receiver? And I'm just excited to see it. Like, they're such a weirdly made team. They're coming out of the Balky years, and he was just such a dark cloud over this whole entire franchise. Even if he did have some nice draft picks at the end there, it's just that there's some good feelings with this team, and it's just I couldn't only go so far as the entire team makeup and everything. But the thing is, I think they're gonna have some real highs. I really do, and I think it's gonna be enjoyable to watch, because the talent's really cool. Like BTJ, I had him as a top 10 receiver, and I still feel okay about it. Let's stop at the double catches, though. He's the king of the double catch, and it's going to lead to some bad moments. But I mean, Travis Hunter is really cool. I even like Diami Brown as just like a nice role playing outside guy that fits what they want to do. I know, so it's just like they have enough fun to me, and of course, I like Trevor Lawrence overall as a player. So I don't know. It's just one of these teams. Of course, I always have a soft spot for the Jags, and I think even though I didn't have a playoff team, I'm going to be watching this offense week in, week out, finding where number 12 is every single play.
Yeah, I mean, they have some really interesting depth at receiver. Like you mentioned, De'Ami Brown, Parker Washington, they just traded for Tim Patrick. Like 3 very, very different dudes to roll out onto the field.
All
like,
useful.
okay, all useful. Obviously Tim Patrick I don't know how much Tim Patrick has left. Obviously, Isaac Tesla took his lunch money in Detroit, which was understandable. Like not everybody like that. And it was like, might be a developmental thing with Isaac Tesla. They're taking him from like a big slot, non-productive college guy. I can't stop. I shouldn't even be bringing up Isaac Tesla in the damn Jaguars section, but can't help it. He's like a convert from like a non-productive big slot freak athlete type. They're moving him to X. That might take a while. It took like a month for him to take Tim Patrick's job, and Tim Patrick's been a nice veteran for a while too, and was like a nice, useful role player for the Lions last year. It's kind of their big body on ball receiver when they went to 3 receiver sets. And that's what's interesting about this Jaguars team too, from a receiver alignment perspective. Like I think Hunter is primarily going to be a slot off the ball player, but BTJ was mostly outside on the ball in the preseason game because, I charted this in the airport like a sick freak. We talked about it on Football 301. Could there be situations again now where Patrick takes some of those to move BTJ around? I think there should be, because when this staff got there, but before the Travis Hunter thing, that was like the first thing Liam Cohen said at the Combine. I remember his media availability at the Combine. He goes, oh yeah, BTJ, I didn't know this guy could like line up in the slot. I could go put him all over the place, like option routes, looky routes, this, that, and the other. So just seeing the usage of those 2 guys together is going to be super fascinating. And of course, can't not talk about the running backs here, Nate, because not only is it an intriguing situation, this is also an awesome matchup for them in week 1. Derek Brown's back. Maybe that just changes the entire Panthers run defense because he is a great player that was out in week 1, like right away. But theoretically, like if you needed a desperation play, you could at least look at like a Travis Etienne or maybe a Bajal Tutin. I have no, we have no idea, but this theoretically is a good run defense for them to get here in week 1.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's what it's like. We're interested in what the Panthers might do, but it's still like within reason. Like I only think that they could add so much in one offseason that like I think they'll improve just they have to, because they were just so outright bad last year. But then that's the thing. They go against the Bengals defense. We have the nice little schedule here on YouTube right here. Bengals defense next, who I think will be pretty poor against the run.
Yep.
Texans defense actually too is susceptible to explosive runs, which is something that like this offense too is like Liam Cohen's a big screen guy, and I think receiver screens. And then the 49ers have wow, this is actually a great point. 49ers too have been weak against the run the last few years. I think they will improve. I want to see how Michael Williams is, but I think they'll only improve to average at best. This is a great point that the opening weeks are pretty juicy for whoever wins the running back job, because even their 4-string running back, LaQuint Allen, is great in pass protection. So it's like, oh, now he's useful too. Like, I honestly think they just want to get rid of the 2 vets and play the 2 rookies, but they're terrified of doing that. But that's like, I think over this season, we'll see how week 1 plays out. The 2 young guys just start eating into the 2 old. They're in their mid-20s, but the 2 older guys as reps as the season goes along. Yeah. And I mean, shoot, you just brought up 11 personnel too. Like they have some good blocking tight ends. So like that frees up Strange. I want to see how they use that formationally. And, and I mentioned the screens again, the receiver screens with Liam Cohen were so good last year with the Bucs. And you got 2 awesome screen guys in BTJ and Travis Hunter, and a quarterback that can get the ball out quickly. So this is another offense along with the Bears where I think those receiver screens are going to be weaponized because of the personnel.
Yeah, that week, like 11:30 a.m. Eastern, Jay Glazer tweet, like, here's why Tank Bigsby or Travis Etienne is inactive and going to be traded next week. Tweet is going to hit like scratch for sure. All right, my second offense again is in the AFC South. It is the Houston Texans. A couple reasons why I think this is fascinating. Obviously, talked about it a lot in the offseason, but new offensive coordinator Nick Caley, I think, is going to bring a lot of changes here. I do think that, yes, the offensive line personnel is still a question, which we've talked endlessly about on this show. We've talked about on Football 301. We know that, but I am very curious to see if just an improvement from, as you say, crap to average or crap to maybe slightly halfway decent in the protection rules perspective can help out a unit that is still not very talented, is starting a rookie left tackle in Ursary there. So that's part of what's on my radar for sure. The other thing, Nate, is just like we've got two ambiguous situations on this team. We've got an ambiguous backfield because Joe Mixon is who the hell knows when he's going to play football, if he plays football this year. Two, Nico Collins is an alpha in every sense of the word. Everything beyond him, I think, is pretty much up for grabs. Like, yes, Christian Kirk seems like the locked-in guy right now, but do the rookies start popping early? Xavier Hutchinson, I think, is going to play more in week one than people want him to. He's going to play more in week one. How long does that last? Does he have a nice game? Does he lay down some crack blocks to free up one of these running backs to the point it's like, yeah, we can't really take that guy off the field. So this is an offense I want to be in on because they've got one of the best receivers in football. They've got a quarterback that I trust. And I think that it's a projection, but it's a play caller that I also think we're going to grow to trust over time. So there are certainly some clues from a receiver usage perspective and definitely a running back usage perspective that are going to be worth gathering in a week one matchup against the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, they draft two receivers from the same school, matched another receiver from Iowa State that they have on their roster. And that's I like you say, like my comparison to Jalen Noel, I know you didn't say this, but I wanted to say it. Jalen Noel was Christian Kirk that could block, and then he goes onto the same team with Christian Kirk. So it's kind of one of those things where I like these guys, Noel and Higgins long term, but like you say, I don't know how that's going to look week one. It might take some time before these guys are getting out onto the field. And the offensive line, you say, especially from the rule stuff, and I think just in-house, this sounds like this, or at least what I'm gathering from like outside context, just reading reports, listen to bloggers for the Texans, is just that it's just the competency of the offensive line. The vibes in the room are much better. That I think within reason, they know that they only can get so much better, but they think that at least they can just be more cohesive. And this is something that we've touched on several times, something I'm very excited about. You've brought this up as well, is giving CJ Stroud more control of this offense, I think will lead to more success in the offense, even if it's not always pretty. Like they're going against the Rams pass rush. Like that's a very tenacious pass rush. They're going to get got a couple times. Like a guy's going to lose, but at least you can lose going in the right direction as opposed to just you're blocking nobody at all. So do you think long-term, this is going to be a good thing? I think the rule structure is going to be good. I trust Stroud. Just don't know how to figure out the running back room, figure out the receiver room other than Nico Collins, like you said, though. So yeah, I agree that this is one of the more interesting games throughout in week one. And the other side of the ball, who they're playing as well. It's going to be interesting too.
Right, yeah. Whereas the other game we just talked about, the Panthers-Jags, I thought that could be like a beautifully bad shootout. This is one I could see actually going under the total because it's two teams that we've got questions about, like from a pass protection standpoint. Lark Jackson sounds like he's going to play for the Rams, but he's not had a training camp because of the blood clot situation. Again, he's not even like locked in to play in week one. Still like a little bit up in the air. It sounds like it's trending in the right direction, but still, again, little bit up in the air. Well, hey, guess what? Week one, you got to go up against Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. I picked Will Anderson to be my defensive player of the year. That's how high I am on this Texans pass rush going against this Rams offensive line and a quarterback that every time he gets hit, we're going to be get back up. Matthew. Okay. Sit up. He said we're good. And again, on the flip side, then it's we're this Texans offensive line that maybe it's better from a rules perspective, but Ursary still has to go against like Jared Verse and the boys in his first outing. So it could be a lower scoring game. So I don't want to overreact to that, right? I don't want to overreact to how these offenses, especially the Texans, first time play caller, first game on the job. I don't want to overreact to how it looks, like the production, but that's why from a structure perspective, I can't wait. Monday morning, I can almost guarantee you one of the first games I'm going to turn on is this Texans offense and be like, how many times, I might even have the notebook up during the game on Sunday if I've got him on the multi. How many times am I seeing Nico Collins line up off the line of scrimmage? Is he in motion more? Because that's really the way you access like the upside of a player like that, Nate, and it hasn't happened yet for Nico, where it's just been the X receiver stuff. But is Jaden Higgins out there to do some sacrificial stuff? Is, again, Xavier Hutchinson kind of that guy that's just – he's out there just to be on the line of scrimmage and occasionally lay down a good block here and there. Because that's actually, I kind of compared him, like another Iowa State guy. I compared him to Alan Lazard coming into the league. It's like, like a useful little role player. You don't give that guy $11 million. like if you're the damn Jets just to appease an old quarterback, but
Well,
nice little role player to have around. So again, he could be a guy that just plays more in week 1, but that might help Nico Collins out.
No. And if you look at their roster too, they're only carrying 2 tight ends. They got a fullback, but they're only carrying 2 tight ends. So you might just get some creative 11 personnel looks. That's why they're carrying, they have 7 receivers listed on their roster right now. So this is a guy, play caller that has some Rams to his background, Rams that used a lot of 11 personnel. So we might see some just creative usage. I'm not using Christian Kirk to block anybody, but I could do some interesting things with Nico Collins. I could do something with Higgins. Jalen Noel, I think, is a good blocker. Hutchinson, Watson, all those guys are good blockers, can just contribute. So I think it would be, maybe it's one of those where it's just super rotational outside of Collins, and then that they're just rotating these guys. I know the Rams shtick, it was always just to play the same guys always, but they've changed over the years. Yeah, I know, I'm with you that Texans are just one of the most fascinating teams because they're so close to contendership. Like they have a defense that can contend. They have a quarterback that can contend. They have a number 1 pass catcher that's elite. And they just need to find an offensive line that works because the rest will fall into place if they do. So we'll see how this early returns are against a pass rush that's going to be just throwing heat. That's all they do. The Rams, they have to live where they have to sack the quarterback within 3 seconds. If they don't, they get torched. So just hold on to your hat. Yeah, that's what it is. It's just like, all right, every offensive play is 3 seconds or less. Because I think that's what the run game is going to be for the Texans too. Because it's, again, the background is Patriots and Rams. They run duo a whole bunch. So it's going to be just a bunch of ugly 4, 5, 6 yard runs. That's the design of the offense. But we'll see how it looks with Nick Chubb, who is on his last legs, Dameon Pierce, who is not super explosive, like not very explosive run game either. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be, I think, like you say, I think the under is an easy lean for this game if you're a gambler.
Yeah, there just might be like a big time week 1 waiver wire pickup from this offense because of the ambiguity. Like you mentioned, Dameon Pierce. What if he leads the backfield and carries? I think I don't think that's like a 50% chance to happen, but it's within the range of outcomes. And then again, Dameon Pierce is going to lead like every waiver wire segment in fantasy football. So a lot of things to learn. Hey. I had some really good fantasy teams with Dameon Pierce in 2022 or whatever.
Yeah.
Was that?
Yeah. When he had that like 3-week stretch before he fell apart. Yeah.
Correct. So Dameon Pierce will always have like a nice spot in my heart because of that, because he really did help me through some tough times. And it probably will never happen again, but you never know. So again, this is definitely a game to watch in week 1. We're going to take another quick break here. When we come back, we will talk through the 2 things that Nate is nerding out about right now. 2 great topics as well. We'll get into them right after this. All right, we are back. It is the segment that just raged through America last year. It's back for another season. What is Nate nerding out about in this little the film room in your box over there, Nate Tice? What are you just nerding out about as you're pulling up the games every single week to watch back on NFL Pro or whatever? Old school guy with the. Now. Yeah,
I got next gen stats now, so it's I get to cheat. It's fun.
I was gonna make a joke about you got the old school projector or whatever, but no, you've definitely got the all the high tech. Honestly, I will say I'm not here to shill for NFL Pro, but great product, and it has changed my life tremendously. As somebody that is just like charting one player for most of 95% of the film work I'm doing is charting wide receivers. It's a life changer. Just give me the one guy. Just give me the one guy I need to watch instead of like, especially when you got to chart some freaking rookie receiver. He's probably only running like 15 routes in this game. Click. Nope. Next play. Yep. Next play.
Is he the one wearing the high socks? Or yeah. Does he have the wristband on? White gloves?
Oh yeah.
You're
CeeDee Lamb. Thank God he's got the dreadlocks. I spotted him right away. It's a Cooper Kupp game. Great. Where's the white guy? All right.
Where's the white guy?
It's great to have. Anyways, long story short, we've come a long way from. Certainly when you started doing film work, when I started doing film work, things are a lot easier now. So yeah,
I do have a story.
Go for it.
About spotting a guy. So my first year in the league, when I was with the Falcons, one of my jobs was they call them hit tapes or POA tapes, point of attack. So you're basically just creating cut-ups, highlights of a guy, highlights, lowlights, kind of a guy. What is this player? And Louisville had 2 offensive linemen. One of them wore 68 and the other wore 60. Okay. and they were Adidas sponsored, and they would wear white or black jerseys with silver numbers, and they were tiny silver numbers because they were Adidas.
Disgusting.
And you'll just say, well, don't they play the same spot every snap? Offensive linemen generally very easy to make a cut up for because they're in the same spot every single time. No. Bobby Petrino liked to do strong side and weak side offensive linemen and flop those two based on strength and backside of the play in this year. So it was just like and there's no like, hey, is this guy in the game? And then they'd bring in a 6 offensive lineman they wanted to give reps for. It was I still think about these guys. And one of them got drafted. I used to remember his name like that, but they're like day 3 picks. And I wasted so much time on those two. But yes, that was my charting back in my day story because of Bobby Petrino swapping offensive tackles on plays.
Yeah. Moral of the story is that it's a lot easier to watch.
NFL Pro, great product
now. Yeah, great product. So when you're going to be firing up the film room this week,
yes,
Nate, you've got 2 things that you are nerding out about that you can't wait to check out. Give us the first one here.
First one is a long continuation, a team I'm pretty high on, mostly because of the defense, but I think the offense is going to be a little bit better than people are expecting. That's the Seahawks, and that's the Seahawks run game. Clint Kubiak, of course, is the offensive coordinator there. Essentially got carte blanche to kind of make the personnel how he saw fit. He really did. I mean, from offensive line to quarterback to just like a lot of decisions that they made this offseason. And some of that's good. And I really do think, though, that the strength of this team, and this is a Kubiak Shanahan as pure as it gets to. Like, there's not McVay or LaFleur's doing or McDaniel's doing. Kubiak is like pure. Like, even Shanahan has deviated from what Kubiak does. And that the sense that this is the Rosetta Stone of a Shanahan Kubiak offense. So, which means a lot of zone. It means zone with fullbacks. It means tight end usage. It's also just an offensive line because they run zone, or an offense that runs a lot of zone. It lifts the floor up of their offensive line. This is an offensive line that needed its floor lifted up because it was atrocious last year. I think I'm not speaking news to anybody that was peaked on the Seahawks at any point in the season last year, but they really invested in this offensive line. And because I think this offensive system that has some competency, not only just offensive coordinator, but offensive line coach, that's not a lifetime college guy, that I think that the floor has been lifted up to where this offensive line could be average. And I think maybe even good in the run game, but maybe below average in the pass game, like a typical Kubiak Shanahan offensive line. Charles Cross is legitimately good, the left tackle, but Gray Zabel, their first round pick, looked phenomenal in the preseason, like absolutely phenomenal. But then they also got a undrafted guy, it's not his first year, but his second year, Jalen Sundell, who is also a North Dakota State guy. He looked great this preseason. Bradford, the right guard, looked great this preseason. They had a lot of competition on the offensive line, and the guys that won actually looked good in the preseason, which is like, oh, that's encouraging. Not just competent, but actually like they actually knew what they were doing on every play, and that's where this bullishness comes. I think Charbonnet is going to end up eking out in this backfield not because of Kenneth Walker's ability, but Kenneth Walker's availability. And I mean, he's been hurt this whole preseason. This offense can lead to some hits on running backs because they get out more in space. So I think maybe just Walker's, when he's out there, is going to be effective. But Charbonnet, I think, is always going to have a role even when Walker's out there, because I just think that's how the offense will flow. So yeah, just overall, just very high on the run game, way more than I even thought. And I think just overall pretty bullish on the Seahawks, relatively, of course. I'm not saying top 10, top 5 offense, but I think a run game that's going to surprise some people and be efficient and pretty explosive too.
You picked them to win the division, right?
I did.
That's right.
Yeah. We'll see how that one goes, but yeah, well, they're the longest odds.
But that division's so competitive, man. Like it's so competitive. I ended up with the Niners, which is probably the boring pick, but I think that the Seahawks are absolutely could do it. I think any of these 4 teams, I don't know. I'm still iffy on the Cardinals being like a division winning quality team. I think
I had to commit to the bit. I had to commit to
I know
you
did.
I'm too far gone. I'm too far gone. Yeah, way pot committed.
You gotta like will that thing into existence, baby. Like you're doing the right thing there, putting the Cardinals in. But that's like the one, and obviously the Rams. could be like the best team in the conference,
Anything.
or they could win 5 games because Stetson Bennett's playing by week 17. Those are all within the range of it's a very, long story short, very competitive division. I could see the Seahawks becoming the best team here because I'm with you. We all had on Football 301 top 10 defense, I think top 6 defense, the Seattle Seahawks this year. We're all really bullish on them and as that type of unit. And I think that's going to keep the offense in games, and that's going to allow them to stick to their philosophy, which should be very run heavy. You brought up the Zach Charbonnet thing. I think I'm kind of like a centrist on this Seahawks running back room, which in fantasy football is like not allowed. You either have to be like a full Kenneth Walker bro, or you've got to be like out on Kenneth Walker. I think Walker was a great pick in the 4th round because I think the ceiling is there. But I also think Zach Charbonnet, it was a great pick wherever, like a round or 2 ahead of his ADP, because there's a chance Kenneth Walker might not hit. There's a chance Kenneth Walker might be hurt. And then Zach Charbonnet, I think, just walks into a starting gig where he's got it all to himself, which we've seen him be successful in. And I'm glad you framed it this way, Nate, because my contention with this whole thing, the one thing I do push back on the Kenneth Walker bros is that, well, every time Walker's been healthy, he's just been the full feature back. I'm like, that makes no sense for a guy that gets hurt all the time. No. Why don't you try to take some work away from him when you have a good second back? So if this turns out to be, again, this is hyperbole, but what if it turns out to be a top 5 run game, right? Like it's that good because the system's proven
within the range of outcomes, though.
Yes, and the offensive line is what it is. It takes that leap to being functional, and the passing game I think will be good enough with JSN, who is an ascending like potential superstar player. Our guy Torrey Horton is going to be the lid lifter. I think the passing game will be good enough. Darnold is who he is, but again, veteran quarterback. The run game then becomes like a top 5 run game. Both of these backs might have it's not likely, but it's possible that both these backs have like some standalone value in this backfield. I think that is very possible.
It is. And like you said, it was an easy slate to go against the start. And that's the thing with Walker too, is it's not, I liked Walker too. But he can be inconsistent with his reads because he's so explosive. He wants to bounce things. Again, this is a zone offense. And I think he'll be fine in it and everything, but there'll be times, maybe sometimes they're like, oh, he bounced it outside again when you should be planting your foot in the cutting. Coaches want reliability, availability and reliability. And this is a new coaching staff, and they're going to go with this. Also an offense that goes with the hot hand. When you don't have a Christian McCaffrey, they just roll with the hot hand. So it might look like that Tevin Coleman, Devontae Freeman kind of backfield for a minute, like just figure it out.
That's a really good comparison.
That's where the offensive line's not perfect, but it's better than you would think. And I don't know, there's some similarities to that. And obviously the offensive scheme, and even George Holani, their 3rd string running back, like looked good in the preseason. At times, even I was like, oh, that's 36. Okay. That's not Charbonnet, because that's another thing. If Walker's out, it still might be a split. And if Holani's real, this is a Shanahan offense. What's the classic thing about the Shanahan offense? The guy came out of nowhere and became fantasy relevant. Like, this is all the makings of it is this backfield right now that I think some people are still sleeping on a little bit. I know I'm talking in fantasy circles, but I think in real football circles as well. And the Saints offense as well, end with, who was not great last year, had a fun couple first weeks. And then they just went through the Derek Carr experience, and then Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner and everybody playing quarterback there. It was pretty fun. Looked like Mardi Gras in the backfield. Last year, that offense finished 14th in rushing DVOA. So it's like, even when crap is crap, like the Kubiak Shanahan scheme and philosophy can get above average results. And I think that the makings of this could actually be outright good results.
Really interesting that I hadn't thought about this, but that Freeman, Tevin Coleman perspective. And by the way, like if I would say that Zach Charbonnet is the Devontae Freeman of this one, like not a flashy, not an explosive guy, but just a grinder that gets the job done. I think obviously that's where you're going with that. He obviously ends up leading the backfield and has double-digit touchdowns, 1,500 yards from scrimmage. I think that would be a long shot for Zach Charbonnet, but I'm looking at the 2016 Falcons when they were the best damn offense in the league. Probably not gonna, even if I this could be interesting, that's probably not going to happen here for Seattle. But like again, Tevin Coleman, same season, had 941 yards from scrimmage and 11 total touchdowns. So again, that's a high bar we're not talking about that level of production, but we're talking about how these two guys can coexist together. I think that is very possible. And the one thing that hasn't been discussed enough in this like great war in fantasy circles of Zach Charbonnet versus Kenneth Walker, like there are scenarios where the answer could be both. Like if this run game is good enough, which here in week 1 against a 49ers defense with Robert Saleh back in the mix, but you mentioned has been susceptible to explosive runs. I really can't wait to get my eyeballs on this offense. Worth noting too that Clint Kubiak, obviously coming from New Orleans last year, but came from San Francisco. Probably not a lot that he's going to be pitching here in week 1 that this team hasn't seen before. So there's at least something to consider there.
There's maybe that whole division, man. The whole NFC West is just so like, it's like almost like a college conference where everyone's just hiring each other as assistants. They're all from the same trees and everything. So it's all most of the same. And you know, I've been focused on the run game. There's just other aspects. You mentioned Torrey Horton. I think JSN's going to have a blow up year, like a big year. I know we both like him, but I really do think he's just becoming just such a complete football player. And like, you can feel it. He's becoming even better. I liked him, but I like him more as a pro than I even expected. But then AJ Barner, the tight end, I really, really like, and so do they. And so he's like a sneaky candidate. More dynasty, I think, than maybe year-long fantasy, but a guy I'm targeting as well, on top of Elijah Arroyo, who they drafted. So I don't know. I just, this team I've really warmed up to, because the strength of it's the defense, but man, I think this run game can really play complementary football, like you mentioned, but good. Not just like, oh yeah, they get the job done. Like, but I think they're going to have some weeks where they really bust open some bad defenses.
Yeah, AJ Barner feels like a Will Dissly type, but like maybe a little bit better than that, you know? And like
That's
those
fair.
guys just hang around. Look, literally the Will Dissly is hanging around right now for the Los Angeles Chargers. So like that's a guy that could just hang around for a while. And yeah, last point just on JSN, and then we'll throw to your next one here that you're nerding out about. He's another guy that I feel like we just like didn't talk enough about in fantasy circles, because like which is weird because he's like a 3rd year ascending guy. That's usually one of those players that everybody universally would be like, yeah, draft that dude, of course. But people kind of galaxy brained, like the pass rates are coming down, and the pass rates are going to come down. But when's the last time a young ascending potential superstar receiver got crushed by, the pass rate changed? I don't know. I mean,
right.
If Sam Darnold's good and this offense is still efficient, he should be more than fine as like a 3rd round pick this year.
Do you think Cooper Kupp, old Cooper Kupp, Will Dissly plus, or a 5th round rookie is going to take touches away from JSN? Like, and I think something with the Shanahan offense that people forget is if they have talent at receiver, they channel the whole freaking offense through passing game through that talented receiver. I'm not saying JSN is Julio Jones or Andre Johnson, but I do think he's talented enough that they're going to design a lot of plays for him. Like, he's going to get a lot of high usage and a high leverage plays, red zones, 3rd downs and everything. Because that's their passing game is not always spread out. It's very hyper specific. And I think JSN will get the boom because of that.
No, it's a great point. I did a bold prediction show on reception perception, and one of them was JSN finishes top 5 in receiving yards this year. And again, he's somebody that is like not counted as like that type of upside. And look, it's bold prediction. Nobody cares to get that right. And I've had we've done so many stupid bold predictions.
It's like Lions missing the playoffs. No one will remember that. Lions fans are already
totally.
Lions fans are already putting me on lists.
I didn't see. I was gonna say I didn't see you added to a list this morning. But anyways, it is gonna be super interesting to see the Seahawks offense. Like they're one of the big reveals I can't wait to watch this year. Let's get to your next thing that you're nerding out here, which is the Cam Ward to Calvin Ridley chemistry. And this is a pretty big one for week 1, Nate, but I want to hear just your points overall about this potential duo.
This is me just taking that, I don't know, the little small sample size of preseason and just extrapolating and stretching and stretching and stretching. But I just think that what I saw from Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley was a quarterback that knows how to work with this receiver. Sometimes you have talent, and it just doesn't work as far as their play styles and everything. Calvin Ridley is a fast player. He's explosive. He can be a good route runner, but sometimes he can get a little loose with his route running. You know, it can be a little short sometimes, a little deep sometimes. Mm-hmm. Just every once in a while, he has those flare-ups. And I think that getting with a quarterback and Cam Ward, that I've compared him to the skateboarder Rodney Mullen in the sense that he can do these things that seem so funky and extravagant and really just like not traditional, but his actual rules and basis and his structure are actually a lot better and a lot more sound than people realize. And so why I'm saying all that is I think this quarterback and with Calvin Ridley, actual competency at quarterback, how Cam Ward was throwing to him was a lot of trust, a lot of faith, a lot of, I know where you're going to be, so I'm just throwing it to this spot. And if they're showing that to me preseason, not week 6, not week 9, where it's like, okay, now they got some reps, that's really encouraging to me, that the early returns are already to that chemistry level. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray are still working out their chemistry. Like they like Calvin Ridley and Cam Ward have already shown more chemistry than a lot of other pairings that I see in this league. So it's really cool. Sometimes you just get these styles that boost each other. Even if that you like, I'm not saying Calvin Ridley is a top 5 guy or anything, but he is a guy that I'm really looking at fantasy wise, because one, also look at the rest of the receivers that he's playing with, something you and I joke about 100 times. And also I think Cam Ward's just going to go every third down, every big play, every time he can take a one-on-one, it's going to Calvin Ridley. And I think that it's going to be cool. There's going to be some frustrating moments against good defenses, of course, but I think that's going to be a really cool chemistry because there's going to be some trick shots thrown in there that I think will turn some highlights.
I'm so with you over the course of the season. I'm really, really excited about Calvin Ridley and the Cam Ward, Calvin Ridley connection. I wrote about this when I charted Ridley for reception perception. Like some of Ward's best throws are like layering passes. I know everybody's excited about the downfield stuff, but like layering passes over the middle. And Ridley's like dig route separation, slant route separation's really, really good. And he just was never they were throwing him some dig routes last year, not very often, but when Will Levis tried to do it, they were always like behind him. He's having to adjust, which is like not really Calvin Ridley's game. You just want to like catch it cleanly and go. So I just think that the Ward Ridley, like where they win, lines up well. And then we've seen the preseason, like you mentioned, the chemistry. The one thing I will come back to in what you said there is there could be some rough moments against good defenses. They do play the Denver Broncos in week 1.
Yeah.
And they do play the Denver Broncos in week 1, Nate Tyson. I know you know this. They got a guy, Patrick Surtain, on that other side that tracks those number 1 receivers around, defensive player of the year. And as you said, who the hell else are you thinking about in that Titans receiver room? Here's your prediction, Nate. I'm curious how you think this matchup goes. My prediction is Calvin Ridley leads like every obvious buy low fantasy football list going into week 2. It's like, Calvin Ridley didn't do anything with your fantasy in week 1, but Patrick Surtain, what do you want him to do?
Yeah.
He's going to be great, the next week or whatever.
Yeah, then he's got the Rams, Colts, and then he goes Texans, which won't be that fun. But then Cardinals and Raiders, so it's got some juice there. No, but that's such a good point because not only is it like, there's some misconstruing sometimes, like, this team's got a really good corner, but it's like it doesn't really matter because they play a certain way or they can move the guy. They only play one side. Like Sauce Gardner can be like that a little bit because he's only one-sided. Mm-hmm. But the Broncos play
not this guy
and and they track and they do it every down. And then that's the thing. And he snuffs out the number 1 receiver. So great point. This is a year long. This wasn't the week 1 offense I'm excited to get notes on. This was year-long chemistry and everything, what I'm nerding out about. So it's a very, very good point. So we'll see how the auxiliary receivers do with Cam Ward.
I mean, I guess they're just going to start Alec Iomanner like right off the rip here, which
Riley Moss versus Iomanner. That's a football 301 matchup that we love.
God. Yeah, that really is like a football 301 super dork matchup. But it will be interesting because I don't know. Number one, you can't trust a damn thing Cam Ward says. Which shout out to Cam Ward. A-tier liar. Excuse me. Yeah. S-tier liar is Cam Ward. Which again, this is a compliment to quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes is also an S-tier liar. I definitely remember him hyping up like, Sky Moore is about to be ready to have a big season going in his second year. And it was right away like, I don't think so. So again, this was the quote I was going to reference here. Cam Ward and Alec Iomanner, from a route running standpoint, I think we stole him when we drafted him. I saw that quote getting aggregated. Like, they're gassed about Alec Iomanner. I'm like, guys, he said right before the Titans drafted him, Cam Ward is like, top 5 wide receivers. Obviously, Calvin Ridley, number 1 in the NFL. And then he had Traylon Burks as like the 4th or 5th best receiver in the league. Okay. Liar. So, yes. Good. Hell of a teammate. Of a teammate. We'll see how Alec Iomanner does like in week 1 against a good corner in Riley Moss.
It's the other account. It's the quarterback speak index. That's what it's going to be with. Just figure out how much they pump up their teammates. Yeah. No, I know the highest quality I can give Iman, or like his strong suit of his game, is his blocking. Is his tenacity and his blocking. Like I had a 3rd round grade on him. He went about where he should have gone. But it's just that
fourth.
He also has some, 3rd, 4th round grade. He has some drops issues as well, which is always a little frustrating. So that could lead some frustration as well. So yeah, but he's going to get his workout. We got Tyler Lockett appearance. Your guy Van Jefferson might make an appearance in this game. So
he'll be out there. He'll be out there. Van Jefferson will be out there. Don't know if he'll be in production, but he will be out there. He will be on the field. But no, this is
a lot of snaps will happen.
Snaps will happen. Targets, yards, can't promise those, but snaps will happen for old Van Jefferson. But no, this is generally like a Broncos defense that the number one gets snuffed out, so maybe someone else can eat. Maybe it's Chico Okonkwo in week 1, and he's a guy that people are excited about coming out of week number 1. But I'm with you. Over the course of the season, I'm not like super jacked up about the Titans offense as a whole, but I do think it can be better than people are expecting. And there's a trickle-down effect to Calvin Ridley and Cam Ward having good connection. Tony Pollard, I think, was just mispriced in drafts all offseason. And hey, if Ironman is going to be out there blocking, like, let's block for some Tony Pollard because you can get some nice little running back 2 production. So I'm interested to watch this team in week 1, and I'm with you. Over the course of the season, I think the Ridley to Cam Ward connection is going to sneakily be one of the more interesting ones across the NFL. We're going to take our final break. We come back, talking Titans. We're going to talk some marquee teams on the other side of this break because we got to preview the first NFL game of the season, Cowboys at Eagles. We'll get into that right after this break. All right, we are back. We have a real deal freaking football game to talk about here. We've got Cowboys at Eagles coming up on Thursday night. We got a 47.5 point over-under. Pretty nice. I think this game actually could go higher than that, but we'll get into it. Eagles are 8.5 point favorites. So, Nate, any big news between one of these teams happen lately? No. I don't know. Two couple under the radar outfits.
Yeah.
Not a lot to talk about.
Shouldn't this game be on Sunday afternoon? Shouldn't this game?
Is this a 1 p.m.er?
on Fox? Yeah, usually this is the Sunday afternoon Fox game. No, I think the Cowboys may have traded away their best player. And I think
maybe
the Eagles. I think the Eagles may have won something last year. So 2 teams. I know we usually don't. We might touch on them on Football 301 once in a while. You might see the Yahoo social team clip it. When we do talk about a couple of these teams, but sometimes, not big fan bases. No,
the Yahoo Sports social team didn't just tweet out one of us jackasses saying Jalen Hurts is going to win the MVP this year. Well, that definitely didn't happen. So don't worry about that.
Just take it. Take the eat. No, pretty interesting game between these two. The spread's got a little big, 8.5 with the Eagles, but I do think, it's a division rival. It's week 1. These teams have a lot of time to prep. And I also think, even when we talk about Micah Parsons and everything, the Cowboys offense still got some juiciness to it. So that I think, and this in the Eagles defense that is figuring out a couple spots. I'm actually writing about this game. Mm-hmm. It was a compromise to write about this game. I'll tell you after the pod about what I was supposed to write about. But it was related to an Eagles quarterback. But when I was watching when I'm looking at this team or looking at this game, it's that I do think the Eagles defense will be a top 10 defense when it's all said and done. I do think Vic Fangio takes a little bit of time always to kind of like figure out his final form. And then they peak up and become a top 3, top 2, top 1 defense. Like I think they'll be division opponent. And I know Schottenheimer wasn't the head coach last year, but he was on that Cowboys staff. He's worked with Dak Prescott, so they're going to have some familiarity. So yeah, just a very interesting game, even if it's 8.5 point spread, but yes, 2 marquee teams that we talk a lot about.
Right. And again, Cowboys defense obviously does not have Micah Parsons. If you're just, coming out from your hole in the ground, shout out to you. Micah Parsons is getting a big fat paycheck to play for the team that took their lunch in the NFC playoffs a couple of years ago, the Green Bay Packers. So, but Trayvon Diggs, Tyler Guyton are good to go. That's great news for the secondary, which I think is a huge question mark for this Dallas Cowboys defense. we'll see. I don't really know what the hell to make of this Cowboys defense and just the Matt Eberflus of it all, because, and this is going to lead to some of my props here that I'm going to give up, but this is typically, and look, always dangerous in week one being like, well, based on what Eberflus has done in the past, but he's typically been a pretty straight, like, soft zone cover two type player. I mean, type defense. That's the play caller he's been. And I think some of these corners are a little bit more, you might want him in more like bump and run type situations. Like Trayvon Diggs is one of those guys. You know, Deron Bland might be one of those guys. Like Kyrie Elam can't really do anything, so we'll see what that looks like. But yeah, man, I just think it's really interesting to watch that secondary against a receiver room and a passing game that's very, very good.
Right. It's just I'm looking at this offense too, and look at the Cowboys team. I just want to figure out who is running the ball. And I'm not sure exactly. I don't want to spoil my props either. So do you want to just dive into it? Because I just do, like, I think using that will allow me to expand upon my thoughts on both of the units as well too. Because I'm writing about it. Because you mentioned the Eberflus defense going against the Eagles. So the only time Jalen Hurts has played against an Eberflus defense was in 2022 when Eberflus was the head coach of the Bears. Hurts did not have a great game. He ended up having 2 picks. His success rate was in the mid 30%. Usually league average is about 45% in the game. He ran for 3 touchdowns, off the sneaks and everything. Had a lot of rushing attempts as well. So that's what I'll get into one of my props, which was Jalen Hurts over 9.5 rushing attempts. Not only just sneaks, but scrambles. The what Eberflus likes to play, like you said, all the soft zone that he has, that he likes to deploy, is kind of made Hurts launch a lot of throws. 48% of his pass attempts traveled 10 or more air yards in that game. And that was just because he just launched go balls. He's like, I got one-on-one on the outside against cover 3 or cover 4. I'm just going to take my one-on-ones and go. And it led to kind of an up and down day. The Bears had pretty good corners that year as well. So it was just one of those things that they were testing him. He didn't really throw a lot underneath other than screens. It was just launching stuff, hoping, and they caught a couple, but then also some turnovers happened as well. Eberflus also brought a lot of blitzes, more cover 0 than he typically did. So that's why I think maybe Hurts scrambles a good amount. Might take one of those, those zone coverages. I don't got that one-on-one. All right, then I'm going to scramble a little bit, get some maybe design runs as well against Cowboys defensive line that, right now, just shaking my hands at them right now. So I just that was my first prop that I looked at, because I just think that the natural deployment of the defense, I think that's what Hurts is. They're going to have success through the air. I really do think that, and on the ground, but I do think that he will have some success on the ground, or not success on the ground. We'll try to run quite a bit.
Yeah, because my props was maybe the under on his 35.5 rushing yards was Jalen Hurts. I'll never bet the under on a rush attempts prop on Jalen Hurts, because you can just get banged with the tush push, which is what I'm saying to say.
Sneaks.
Yep, you can just get banged on the tush push over and over again. Like, I'm 9.5 under rush attempts. He could have like 3 in one goal line sequence, and then I'm just really working from behind. Just it's a mess. Like I always try, if I'm gonna go under on Hurts rushing, it usually will be the yards. And to me though, I thought it's gonna be okay. He's gonna have time in the pocket, because obviously they still got some decent edge rushers, and they have a lot of gap shooters at defensive tackles. They got a lot of gap shooters. They don't have like a real run plugger, which Jerry Jones has made us known that they need to get better.
100 times.
many times since Thursday. Which is funny, like Kenny Clark's not even like I just block up like he's been more in his best years. He's been kind of like a gap shooter at times. So just weird all the way around. But got gap shooters at DT. On the edge, they've got they do still have some edge depth, but I still think the advantage goes to the Eagles offensive line there. And even if Diggs is back, he's still coming back from an injury. Producer Colin, who, like, by the way, Producer Colin's already in the coping corner, with the Dallas Cowboys. It took him to like week 9 last year, not even week 1. Just put Colin in the coping corner when it comes to the Cowboys. He's writing in the doc about how Kyrie Elam balled in camp. Okay, pal. I think he's gonna have plenty of time, Jalen Hurts, to sit back in the pocket and find open throws down the field. I'm going to be a hypocrite here and say, like, who got some pop in camp? Even Jahan Dotson got some pop in camp. He's going to be a useful player for them this year. So I'm being a hypocrite here saying that. But still, like, I think this Eagles pass game can just roll in week 1 against this Cowboys defense, which to me, like, Hurts is not going to have to take off and run too much, because I think he'll have time in the pocket. But you are giving me some pause thinking about those, like, gap shooting interior defensive lineman, and he just slips past one and runs one for like 10, 12 yards. And then I'm almost like halfway screwed there.
Yeah, I don't think maybe it's all going to be huge explosive runs and like game-changing runs, but maybe some of those first down, third down runs, the sneaks, like you mentioned, the tush push is always artificially inflated as well. Maybe a couple more designed reads. They kind of have gone away from that, the design run game with Jalen Hurts, but maybe they implement that a little bit more, knowing, hey, we're going against some iffy edges, so maybe we can catch them, reading it wrong. I should say iffy edges. They're okay. But it's just okay. It's not Micah Parsons, who also was would beat up Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata are fantastic offensive tackles. Micah Parsons still would have great pressure numbers against two of the best tackles in the NFL. That's how good Micah Parsons is. But that would also be in Jalen Hurts' head. So he would just start looking to scramble right away and break and contain. Like you say, if he's hanging in the pocket, I think he's going to be able, just how this offense, it's not very hard to read this defense. It's more about making the quarterback patient. But if you're not taking away, the explosives in the run game, then they have no incentive. They can just go, whatever. They don't feel that consternation that this defense is supposed to make the offense feel. So that's where I just think he's going to be able to find some answers, even if there's going to be some inconsistencies against the zone.
Yeah, this is fun. A fun game to talk about here because from a fantasy standpoint, it's like, who do you start? You start all the main dudes and you don't really start anybody else. So it kind of allows us to talk about these props with these bigger name players. So we did it with the Eagles. Let's flip it over to the Cowboys offense side here because you mentioned this Eagles defense. We are obviously, we're expecting this to be one of the better defenses in the NFL, though defenses can regress year to year. They have a lot of superstar talent. But you mentioned there are some spots where they're still trying to figure it out here, which is why I do think they can have some success, Ken Dallas, in the passing game. The Dak Prescott over pass attempts, I think, is very live. 36.5. It's minus 130, though. So a lot of juice on that. But I think this Cowboys pass game can find some success here against this Eagles defense.
I do too. And I also think it's going to be a quick game, heavy passing game. Where it's going to be quicker passes, meaning more pass attempts, because you're just getting more and more yards, not as chunk heavy. Also might be playing from behind and might be going against a front seven that's got some beef and some good players on it that might, de-incentivize the Cowboys to run the ball over and over and over and over with insert name at running back. Not even sure how those touches are going to split out and whether they're going to be efficient, even if they're going to want to. I like the over 36.5 passing attempts because I was kind of looking at the same thing. So when I was doing the research for this game, Dak has played against Vic Fangio 3 times, 3 different stops as well, which is great for making a nice, concise writing, I might add, if I can complain right now.
There you go.
But 2016, he was against the Bears. God, it was like, oh, this is a whole paragraph explaining this. 2016 against the Bears, 2021 when he was the head coach of the Broncos. And so Prescott, the first game and the third game, really, really good. Second game played like crap. And looking at those games though, and how he played against it, Fangio and Eberflus have some of the same tendencies where they play a lot of zone, a lot of quarter shell that rotate down to cover 3, and Dak Prescott targeted his tight ends a ton. And that's kind of like where he would work. He wasn't really launching balls down the field. We'll see if that changes with Pickens, but he was just willing. Dak will do this. And that's why I like Dak. Pepper at 5 yards, 8 yards, 6 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards. And he's willing to be patient. So I went with Jake Ferguson over 33.5 yards. It's minus 125, but I do think he's going to get peppered and quite a bit. I do think that they'll rotate. CeeDee Lamb will get some action, but Cooper DeJean plays in the slot. Cooper DeJean had the lowest amount of yards per target last year among any defender with 50 or more targets. And he was very, very good in the slot. He snuffed out targets to the slot. That's why this defense excelled. But I think the tight end, working against linebackers, Bond's good and fine in coverage, but he's not great. You can find the soft spots there. So I think Jake Ferguson's going to get peppered a good amount on top of some other stuff. And over 50 yards is plus 200 if you're feeling frisky with Jake Ferguson. But that's where I kind of want some of my actions going first is Jake Ferguson targets.
I like that. I also saw you had George Pickens anytime touchdown on there.
I wasn't sure if I wanted to get into that yet.
No,
I mean, every highlight from Cowboys camp was George Pickens getting targeted in the end zone on some designer play for him. And I think the biggest weakness on this Eagles defense is corner 2. they're going to find some design where they get him isolated on corner 2 or wrap some things, some high low. So Pickens anytime's touchdown at plus 190. I didn't want to know if I want to go yards with him or catches with him. So I went anytime touchdown because that's where I think he's going to thrive with Dak.
Yeah, and like Adoree Jackson's that corner 2 for the Eagles right now. Like that's been like a bit of a competition. And Quinyon Mitchell's a guy that just he's one of those guys that stays on one side of the field. And I think there's going to be a lot, like after watching, just going back and recently just charting CeeDee Lamb, like there's just so many ways that I think these guys can like stacked together, where it's like CeeDee Lamb's starts outside as the off-ball player, kicks inside last minute. Cause I know that Schottenheimer wants to do like more shifts and stuff like that. And then again, Pickens, those guys are right next to each other. There's going to be some open opportunities for Pickens. And then the third receiver can, again, just be like occupying Quinyon Mitchell on the other side of the field. Maybe they change things up, but based on last year's usage, that's probably going to be the cornerback situation for this team. I have a sick prop to give out for the Dallas Cowboys offense. You mentioned who's going to be running the ball for this team, Nate. How about their wide receiver 1, CeeDee Lamb, over 0.5 rushing yards at plus 115. Plus 115, you can get this bad boy. All you got to get is 1 yard. Last year, top 5 rush attempts at the wide receiver position. Deebo Samuel, 42. Jaden Reed, 20. Xavier Worthy, 20. Kevontae Turpin, by the way, want to count him as a wide receiver, 16. CeeDee Lamb, 14 rush attempts.
It's always been
DJ
Moore.
Yeah. It was surprising again. It's maybe this is just because it's fresh in my brain because I just literally was charting CeeDee Lamb, and I'm gonna if you want a little free reception perception profile, I'm gonna put that bad boy out tomorrow, Thursday morning, so people can check that out. Because it's timely, that's called marketing.
Yeah. It's good.
But like it's just so many times I'm like, oh, that was a really well designed rushing play for CeeDee Lamb that they had. And again, this is a running back room that's not good. I think I could see CeeDee Lamb running the ball like 3 times in this game. So give me the over on like 0.5 rushing yards here for, just a little nice wrinkle for this Cowboys offense.
Oh yeah, it's week 1 too. This is the stuff they're cooking, stuff they're holding, last game of the season, can't hold anything back. First game of the season, can't hold anything back. No, but it's I'm with you because CD is taking jet sweeps. He's good on those. I think that's still part of this offense. Like that's what Schottenheimer again was part of this offensive staff. He knows that as well. So I really like this one. At first I thought it was over half carries, and I was like, oh yeah, I love it even more. But half yards, I just think this is a good one too, and especially how this defense plays with guys off the ball. It's a good scheme answer. So I do think too that is a good answer to this, or a good bet, a good wager. So I love that one. I can't believe it was plus money. Yeah, that's pretty nice.
I know. Yeah, it's BetMGM, by the way, is where all of our props come from.
Yes.
So just you can get on that right now. Get on that right now because I love it. And true, like off tackle runs for CeeDee Lamb last year, like running back stuff. So Nate, we got to get out of here, but real quickly, does Dallas cover? Final score predictions? Anything in this one?
Ooh, I think Dallas does cover. Maybe like a nice little backdoor cover, but I think the Eagles do start controlling this game in the second half. So maybe Cowboys keep it close, Eagles pull away, then we get a little backdoor cover at the end there.
I say this game goes over and the Eagles win by 10 points. I think that if backdoor cover, I don't know, with Saquon Barkley being able to control the game on the other side for the Eagles. I think that will definitely be. But these week 1 games are always
over under rushing yards. Saquon Barkley might be the more fun one. Where are you putting that?
It's got to be like, oh my god, it's only 91.5, but minus 120. So
okay,
this could certainly be a 100-yard game for Saquon Barkley. But
that would be pretty funny.
All right, hell of a way to start the fantasy film room. That is going to do it from us today. Thanks again to Toyota, the official automotive partner of the NFL. To check out more, Nate hyped this article. Make sure you check that out on Yahoo Sports since he's putting so much work into it. Make sure you check out his Cowboys Eagles write-up and also subscribe to Football 301 as well. This show continues to roll on tomorrow. Justin Boone joins me for our full week 1 preview. Of course, as always, that will be live at 5 p.m. Eastern. Until then, we are out.